Hello everyone, I want to show you guys a new poleaxe that I made. This one is called a Lucerne Hammer. Okay, so the reason why we refer to it as that is because there's a large collection in Lucerne, Switzerland, that has poleaxes that you have a very unique or distinguishing construction method. Okay, so the construction method is that the top spike comes down through a hole in the head of the axe, right? So the hole at the top of the axe is called an eye. So it goes through that hole, okay? It locks it in place, and then the legs of the top spike open up, and they rivet down onto the shaft, and that's how this is held together. So there's actually a shoulder over here. So the axe head doesn't come down through the top; it comes up through the bottom, and it has the same shoulder as a sword, right? So the way the cross guard basically the cross guard comes up through the bottom, and it stops on this shoulder here, right? Right, and then the grip comes up, and then the pommel, gets pinned over at the bottom, and it holds everything in place. So you can see how there's a shoulder here that basically stops this cross guard. So this top spike actually has the same shoulder. So the width here is about 1.5 inches, okay? But the hole is only 1 inch wide, okay? And the legs down here are only about 1 inch wide. So when the head comes up, it stops on the shoulder, okay? And then the legs are then spread, and then they come down on the shaft, and they get riveted in place. So with this style of construction, it is very common to also pass a rivet through the side of the axe head. And the reason why you can do it more easily with this style of an axe head is because of that hole. So there's less material here that you have to go through. Now, keeping in mind that during the medieval period, it didn't have like drills to didn't have electric drills to drill holes through thick pieces of metal. So the holes that they could put through metal had to be hot punched. I mean, you got the metal really hot, and basically you hammered a hole through it. This is the type of construction that's referred to as a Lucerne hammer, as opposed. Show you too. If you look at this other poleaxe that I made here, you'll see that the top spike comes down and the legs spread, okay? They lock the hammer in place, and then they rivet down onto the shaft, okay? So it doesn't go through the hammer, it goes around the hammer, and it basically rivets down onto the shaft and locks it in place. So this is what the top spike looks like on this, right? So you can see how the legs come out, they split open, and then they come down. So the reason why, one of the things that you'll notice is that Lucerne hammers usually have a larger, longer, more robust top spike, and I think the reason for that, I believe, is because the legs of the top spike remain relatively straight as they pass through the axe head, through the eye of the axe head. With this type of construction, where you have the legs split open and go around, this area right here, that's kind of like the weakest link. Okay, so this top spike is really strong if you're thrusting, right? So it's really strong in the thrust. But if you're cutting down, it stresses this area over here, and it doesn't matter how thick I make the top spike, right? I can make this round, I can make this a square. This right here is going to be the weakest link, and there's a limit to how thick I can have this area over here, because it has to be thin enough so that I can get it to go around the head of the axe without adding too much weight, right? Because I can always make something stronger by using thicker metals, but then now we're adding more weight to the end. So with something like this, I want this to basically be really light. I want to be able to cut, recover. So I'm very picky about how much weight I put on the end here. So with this style of poleaxes, one of the things that I've noticed, right, in looking at historical examples, is that a lot of times they will have a very large crescent-shaped axe head, right, that comes almost halfway up the top spike, and you stop and you think to yourself, like, what's the point of making this axe head so big? Because now that limits the ability to use the top spike for thrusting, right? Because if this would have come, like for example, in this one over here, like I can only thrust up to this area over here, right? That's level with the top of the axe, right? I can't thrust all the way down to here because it's going to hit this. So if I had a large crescent-shaped axe head that came all the way up to here, well, that's as far as I could use this top spike. So I believe that the reason why they use these, one of the reasons why they use these crescent-shaped axe heads was to actually protect, the top spike, so that when you're cutting down, right, so that if you're cutting, you're more likely to hit with the axe head, right, and not the top spike. Okay, so on this one over here, with that same idea in mind, what I did is actually I curved it back, right. So if I'm hitting here on this side, the thin side, if I'm hitting here, because it's curved back, it kind of protects the top spike from getting hit as much. Whereas on this side, right, where I have it more straight, the slightly wider axe head protects the top spike from impacting in this area. So I'm not hitting with this area, I'm preserving it so I can just thrust with this area. So with the Lucerne Hammer, because it's a more robust design, because these legs are straight, they don't curve around, so straight generally tends to be stronger. They're straight, they're more together. We start seeing longer, thicker top spikes. And again, I can make this top spike really thick, but it's basically can only be as strong as its weakest link, and the weakest link is going to be this point down here, where it passes through or goes around the axe head. Okay, so anyway, this is the Lucerne Hammer, and this is the difference between these two poleaxe designs. So these are both usually referred to as poleaxes, which is not to be confused with the halberd. Let me get a halberd here. So the halberd is usually a socket design, right? You can see how it's socketed, kind of like a shovel, and it doesn't matter if this is round or if it's square. It's usually a one-piece design. It doesn't matter what the shape is. Like I can cut this down a little bit more. You know, I can have a halberd head that has like this exact shape, right? But if it's a socket design, right, it's a halberd, okay? And there's many different types of halberds. Like for example, like a bill. If it's a socket, it's a halberd. A glaive, that's a halberd, right? They all have that thing in common where they socket down to a shaft, and then usually a rivet is passed through it. This one isn't really complete yet. I'm kind of just using this. I'm keeping this like this to use as an example, because it's on a thicker shaft, and you know, that kind of allows you to see the separation here. And halberds are usually much thinner and lighter, right? So it's a lighter metal that's heat treated. It's basically hardened and tempered. And because it's thinner, right, I can have this on a 10-foot shaft, and despite the fact that this thing is it's thin, you know, it's still pretty strong. Okay, so the thing is, like the halberd heads tend to look bigger, right? But one of the things is when we're looking at pictures of them, we're usually seeing the side profile, and we see something really big. What we don't see is the thinness, okay? And they can't, I mean, normally they'll be a little bit thicker than this. I mean, this is just the metal that I happen to have available. and I wanted to make something just to kind of do a test run with it. And even with this thinness, it's pretty. It still works on those drums over there, and those drums are a really good test subject because the thickness of those drums is very similar to armor, right? Because armor can't be too heavy. It has to be light enough that you can actually wear it. So they made it as light as possible to the point that it was still useful. So that barrel over there, even though that's thick metal, right? Sorry, that's thin metal. It still prevents this sharp top spike from penetrating it. So basically, what you're trying to do with this is you're trying to get this into the gaps. Okay. So we're using the hammer, right? The way I would use this is I would use the hammer side for hitting plate, and I would use the spike side or the axe side for hitting mail or softer type of armor. Usually with these Lucerne hammers, they'll have a hammer on one side and they'll have a spike on the other side. With this one over here, I basically went with a double spike, right? So there's a spike here and a spike here. So depending on how you're hitting, you're either hitting with this spike over here or that spike down here. So I went with the double spike design. The thing is, this area over here, the langets, this is also a hitting area. So it is this steel over here is 1/8 thick on each side. So there's basically a 1/4 inch of steel from here all the way down to here. Okay, so over here what happens is, like, this is actually a hitting area where when you impact, you're going to impact with steel, right? I didn't bother to put langets on the front because I just found it unnecessary, because when you hit, you're going to hit with the edge over here. So this is kind of like a greatsword times 2, right? This is like the same thickness as a greatsword, but I've got 2 of them on each side. I kept this on this one. I kept the same thickness all the way down here, right? Because what I wanted to do is the Lucerne hammer is, with the longer top spike, is specifically designed for fighting people in heavy plate armor. And you're going to end up in a lot of these grappling situations where you're wrestling and pushing and pulling. So that's why I wanted, basically I wanted to support this shaft all the way down to here. And then there's still support from here all the way down to here. But it does get thinner, right? I did make it thinner down there because, basically I just wanted, I didn't think I needed it down here in this area. It does get thicker over here, right, at the end cap. So the end cap is basically for hitting, right? Either you can either punch with this, or you can hit, because again, this metal comes all the way to the edge here, right? And you can hit all the way, you can hit with this area over here, and you're essentially hitting with the steel. Okay, so this came in at exactly 6 pounds. Okay, this is 74 inches, right? So it's a little bit more than 6 foot. And it came in at exactly 6 pounds. But the great thing about this design is, first of all, it's balanced pretty much on its center. All right, go back over here. So as I'm holding it here, you can see how it's center balanced, right? Right. And it's also balanced on its y-axis, right? So if I hold this over here, you can see how this rolls like this, right? Because it's got the same weight on this side and this side. Versus this one over here, you can see you got more axe head on the front. So with this one over here, if I try to roll it, it doesn't quite roll as easy, because there's just more weight on one side. But with all of these, they're all, because I've tapered them, okay, they're all kind of balanced near the center. Okay, with this one is a little bit more front heavy, just a tiny little bit. With these guys over here, I was able to taper a little bit more and bring the balance point a little further back. I think it's about 2 inches up from the actual center. Okay, so that you know, so this being 6 pounds, I can still hold this from the end, right? Hit and recover. So this is a very fast weapon. Not all poleaxes were designed like this. A lot of them, in fact, it was quite rare to have langets all the way down. There is one design that I've seen, there's probably more, but the one I'm thinking of is in the Wallace collection, number A925, that has langets all the way down the shaft. So what I've done with these poleaxes is I've looked at a bunch of different examples, and I took the best from each of them. Okay, so with this one over here, I use the Lucerne head design, but I use the full-length langets from a different poleaxe. Okay, other benefit of having the full-length langets, okay, and the rivets are basically the rivets go all the way through, right? So on a lot of these poleaxes, the rivets don't the historical ones, the rivets on most of them don't actually go all the way through. They use clinch rivets where they basically use like soft nails that go through the shaft, and then when they hit the opposite side, bend down. Okay, some of them use rivets that actually go through all the way. I use the method where the rivets go through all the way, just because it's a stronger design. So again, like I said, I'm using the best. You know, I was able to pick the best features out of all the poleaxes poleaxe examples that were available to me. One of the things that they often do with these poleaxes is that the langets are recessed into the wood, so it's flushed with the wood. So as you slide your hands up and down, you know, you're not hitting because basically if these langets come all the way up to only up to here, and then you bring your hand up, it's going to catch on it. But with this, by going all the way down, all the way to the shaft, it's flush all the way down. So I can slide my bare hands all the way up and down this, and it's not going to catch. So again, picking and choosing the best features out of the historical examples. Okay, so this is an extremely robust design. Like I said, these langets are 1/8 inch thick from here all the way down to here. Okay, so that's on each side. So there's a 1/4 inch of steel from the head all the way down to here, and then there's about 1/8 of an inch thickness on each side from here all the way down to here. Okay, so I think that's like 3/8 total, right, to combine the two. And then the end cap over here, we go back up to 1/8 on each side. So this is very robust over here for hitting. And again, the great thing about this is it's light. You know, it's centered on that center balance point. Extremely robust. Okay. You can see how the hammers are moving, because the force from this barrel is going all the way through this barrel and making that hammer move. Okay. So with this, you're not just hitting with this. You know, you can hit with this, right? So that's also a good hitting, again, because it's robust. It's built really strong. Okay. But you're also hitting from here all the way down to here. And one of the things that you'll notice is this is actually the hardest hitting area, from here to there, right? When you hit, you see how they're actually moving more. And this is like, if you look at a typical sword, they call this area over here the center of percussion, right? So on a sword, this area over here is usually the hardest hitting area. Okay, this area over here, the tip, is the fastest. Okay, this over here, center of percussion. Same idea here on this poleaxe. This is going to be the center of percussion. That's going to be the hardest hitting area. So I want this to be the most built up, because this is going to do lots of hitting. Also, this is the area that's going to impact other poleaxes. So if you're fighting somebody else and the two poleaxes collide, that's where they're usually going to hit, and then come to a sudden stop when they hit each other. So I want this area over here to be like really built up and really strong. But again, at the same time, I want this to be fast and nimble. Okay, and the way I was able to achieve this, you know, both giving it both a distal a distal taper and a profile taper. Okay, and also balancing it on the center, so that allows you to, you know, quickly go from one side to the other side. You know, so it's really fast and nimble. This one, like I said, this one came in at 6 pounds. This one over here used the slightly lighter construction design, where the top spike langets went around the head. This one came in a little bit lighter. I think it was what was it? 5 pounds, 5 ounces. I think 5 pounds, 5 ounces. So this one's extremely. This is like super light, but also super strong, because again it uses the same, you know, construction. Really strong poleaxe. So again, I was able to take the best out of all the historical examples that I saw, and combine them into these poleaxes. Now with the end cap, and again you can also hit with that, hit like that, around there. So anyway, I want to share that with you guys. This has been a fun project. I've actually, these are forged, meaning I blacksmithed them. You know, you know, heated up the metal, and basically beat it. You can see the anvil back here on the tractor. I beat these into shape with a hammer over an anvil. So every time I do one of these things, because I really, my intention was to do one and stop. This is the first one that I made. But every time I complete one of these, it's like I come up with a new idea of, like, you know, something different to try. So that's how I ended up with 3 of them now. So anyway, drop some comments. Let me know what you guys think. I'll talk to y'all soon. Hey everyone, I want to give you guys an idea of the type of fighting that I do that has led to the development of these pole arms. Okay, so in this video, I'm fighting in the solid yellow. Now we're both calibrated for male armor, so we're using more percussive hits than thrusting hits. However, we can also use thrusts. Yeah! Excellent. Yeah. Yeah, that was late. Was that? I was a little late. Yeah. It was also borderline power. Yeah, it was kind of like. Yeah. Yeah, I barely had grip on it. So it was just a massive weapon. Yeah. Before you leave, I got that motor out. Oh, yeah, thank you. Huh? Oh, no, they pulled it off with the thing was on. Oh. You got me. Oh. Oh, yeah. Okay. All right. That's 3. We got 7 more to go. Yeah. Yay. Yeah, you had to drop it. I wasn't sure. You did pop it, but it was like you didn't have the pop and you pushed it back.
That was it. I saw the.
Yeah, I'll take it.
It was placement. I just tried to get a little
Yeah, it was just
without
shrunk. I'll
it.
take that just because.
Yeah.
Get the pole and.
3 out of the 4 points.
Yeah. Did you get me too?
No, mine came. It may have skittered.
Okay.
That may have what you felt. I think it was on your right side, right?
Yeah, I couldn't tell.
Yeah. No. I just get it. Okay.
Yeah, across. Woo! And the cut.
Yeah, you just gotta spin it on that initial contact.
Yeah. Okay, just got some nice. Yeah, double. Butt spike and cut.
Okay. Hey, with you, I'm not sticking around to admire my handiwork.
Yeah.
Oh, no, mine was waiting.
Was it? Okay.
Oh, yeah. I had block. You got the shot as mine was coming around.
Okay.
I just couldn't stop mine. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. I had nothing to protect myself from that shot.
Yeah.
No, half.
Oh,
Half. And that was that. You actually got hit by your own half. You had the block,
yeah.
but my blade was too far past. And I knocked your half, my half, knocked into your half. And that's what you felt against your helm.
Well, shame because it felt good.
Oh, I'm sure it did.
Yeah, you got it.
Still, I gotta come up with a better answer. You got the arm without question. I'm just thinking, I could have got to come up with a better defense.
Yeah. I'm on my left side now, so
Yep.
there's going to be more on.
Yeah! Excellent. At least made you work for that.
You got me.
I do.
Yeah.
Woo. How many more?
2 more.
Okay.
Ah! All right, I guess 1 more.
Saw it coming.
That was for the cheap thrust.
I can appreciate that.